for his opening remarks.
Okay. Thank you, Katrina. Good afternoon and bon après-midi. I'm here today to provide an update on the progress in restoring GO Train Line 1 capacity and strengthening our bus service, including our fleet availability. Je suis là de vous fournir aujourd'hui une mise à jour sur le
I'm here to provide an update on our progress in restoring a train capacity on Line 1 and strengthening our bus service, including fleet availability.
The impact of our current service is having on our customers, and I want to keep everyone informed on our progress and steps that we're taking towards improvement. I can't say it enough, but I know that we can and we will do better. I'm joined today by Sabrina Pezian, our Chief Safety Officer, as well as Joel Lemieux, our Director of Transit Service Delivery and Rail Operations. My remarks today will be brief to allow for more time for your questions. Starting with Line 1, we continue to operate at an increased frequency of 3 to 4 minutes during peak periods, but with single car trains. I know many customers have faced crowding at stations and in trains, and I appreciate everyone's patience as we work to restore the capacity on our Line 1. Our staff will continue to be at key stations to support customers and to quickly respond if an issue occurs. As we've shared at our technical briefing last week, we're working on our action plan on multiple fronts, while keeping RTG and their subcontractor Alstom accountable to deliver a safe and reliable service. We now have 20 trains available for service, and while this is positive progress, fleet availability will fluctuate due to planned maintenance work and required inspections on vehicles. This is not unlike any fleet of vehicles, whether it be bus or trains. There's always inspections and work that needs to be performed. Customers can expect that Line 1 operations will continue to operate at the planned frequency of that 3 to 4 minutes during those peak periods for the time being. As more vehicles are available for service and the levels can be sustained, we will start to increase the number of vehicles that we put into service. Our team continues to have productive technical meetings with RTG and also external experts. This work is focused on ensuring proper validation and verification of the mitigation and containment measures to detect spalling and ensure the continued safe operations of the fleet. We need to ensure that all the necessary information and adequate supporting technical information is provided by RTG and Alstom. This is complex work, but we're making progress towards restoring capacity while having a safe and stable service. Moving on to our bus service action plan, the latest results show that from January 25th to January 31st, bus service delivery was just under 94.5%, with a slight decrease in the average buses available from weekdays at 492 buses. There was also an increase in the number of undelivered trips to 6% of total scheduled trips. It's important to note that last week we saw very low temperatures and snowfall, which put a further strain on our bus fleet, and that impacted our progress. On the positive side of things, though, our enhanced maintenance practices allowed for faster stabilization of the fleet following these weather events, and we're seeing a positive trend this week with more buses available for service and fewer underdelivered trips. Overall, we are seeing an increase in the average number of buses available for service since early January. This average number of undelivered trips has also decreased from its peak, and the number of electric buses increased by 7 this week, with more on the way. Our recruitment campaign is also well underway, and I'm sure everyone's seeing that, that we are hiring signs on our buses. Our focus right now is on hiring mechanics that we talked about previously, as well as hiring more bus operators. With more buses, increased staffing levels, and with better weather that comes with spring, we know that our action plans will be effective and that our fleet will be in a much better position come the spring. So as a reminder, we have an upcoming Transit Commission on February 12th, and we'll have, we'll provide a longer update in terms of all these action items and a few other things at that time. Before
we conclude, I want to thank customers for their patience. I know that our service is not where it should be. Everyone at OC Transpo is focused on making progress for our customers.
Before I conclude, I just want to thank our customers for their patience. I know that our service that we're currently providing is not where it should be, and everyone in the organization feels that. We are focused on making progress. We want to do it as quickly as possible, and we're all focused on improving the service so that we can get back to our expected service levels for our customers. Thank you. I'll now hand things over back to Katrina to take your questions.
Thank you. I'll ask each agency in alphabetical order to ask one question and one follow-up. Je vais inviter chaque organisme de presse par ordre alphabétique à poser une question et une suivie. And we'll start with Cameron Mahler at CBC.
Hello. My first question is, how long will the CBA replacement strategy take to get one train car experiencing spalling back up and running?
Well, we previously talked about they can do 2 axles a day in terms of replacement, and so it depends on how many axles need to be replaced per train. The challenge with predicting the number of trains that are available for service is there's other maintenance and inspection activities that need to occur as well. So sometimes you see we increase the number of trains available for service because of the CBA replacement, but then other trains need to go down, need to be taken out of service for their regular inspections and maintenance. But based on their plans and what they're looking at is they can do 2 axles per day. And then, as I said, it depends on the number of axles per train that needs to be replaced.
Can you say yet exactly how many CBAs in the 39 remaining stocked cars are experiencing spalling?
I don't have that number. I do know that, as I said, out of our fleet of approximately 64 vehicles, we have, 20 that are available for service at this time. And on each train, there could be the trains that are stopped. There can be one or more axles that are beyond 100,000 kilometers, and that's the restriction that we've currently put in place to ensure the safe operation of the fleet.
Thank you. Moving on to Jody Applewhite at CBC.
Hi there. Sorry, I'm a little bit off screen, but I wanted to ask about if there was any coordination between the federal government and OC Transpo before that return to office announcement came out yesterday. Specifically, I'm wondering if the federal government spoke with OC Transpo before that decision was made to announce that.
Yeah, representatives from the city and OC Transpo continue our dialogue with the federal government on a number of fronts, and return to office mandates as well as other aspects are discussed. We knew that something was in the works with regards to the federal government, and we've assured them that our plans that we're working towards can support that return to office mandate that they have.
And a follow up on that, just looking at the chart that was provided today about the fact that there's now 20 train cars in service that have gone back since January 23rd. That's 2 more trains since that 2 weeks ago, and we're still looking at that same number next week. So that's about a rate right now of 3 weeks for 2 trains to be back online. So I'm just wondering, with that being said, at that rate, are we looking at something like April for a full return to service? And how does OC Transpo then get ready for that return to work come July, when there will be executives and federal public servants going back at 5 and 4 days a week, respectively?
No, that's a great question. Our focus is on returning the rail fleet to full service as soon as possible, but we're going to be prudent. We're going to be safe in terms of requiring that documentation. We're doing 2 things in parallel. We're looking at the replacement of the cartridge bearing assemblies, and that's something that RTG and Alstom are working on. But ultimately, our focus needs to be on either expanding the restriction to 150 or 200,000 kilometers, but ultimately to remove. That needs to be the solution. And so we're working on the 2 in parallel, CBA replacements, but as well, I think where we need to put a lot of focus on is getting the documentation that validates their containment and mitigation measures so that we can ultimately reassess the 100,000 kilometers and ultimately lift it. And that's our focus over the next couple of weeks.
And sorry, just because
Jody,
in terms of
Jody, we do have more people to get through, and we will do a second round of questions. So I'll come back to you. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks.
you. No problem. Ted Raymond at CTV, please.
Hi there. Yes. So I think my first question is just going to be with regards to the bus system. I believe it was last week, we discussed outsourcing some of the mechanical repairs to outside, like third parties. How has that gone in the last little bit? Do we have an update on that?
Sure. So, part of our ongoing maintenance plans here at OC Transpo has always involved using outside parties, within the City of Ottawa area, and we're maximizing their usage as much as possible, as well as our in-house staff. What we've done recently is we've gone beyond the City of Ottawa limits, and we're looking at other properties with other places within Ontario that can look at maintaining our buses. So we do have a few buses that are with another entity right now. They're in that process, and when we get that bus back, we want to reassess. We want to make sure that the quality of that it meets our expectations. And should that happen, then we would continue to send more buses, further out from just the City of Ottawa area. So it's going well, but we haven't received our first set of buses back from that maintainer at this point. But it's we're really hopeful that it'll give us some additional capacity to get more buses back on the road and help maintain the service for the long term.
Okay, thank you. And to follow up, recently, like I guess it was January 12th, you removed some trips from the schedule just to kind of make it a little bit easier on the bus availability, down from 520 to 500. How long do you anticipate those additional trips that have been removed from the schedule to be off the schedule, or when do you expect them to come back?
I'd love to put a timeline to it, and I know that's what our customers are looking for is, show us that light at the end of the tunnel. At this point, for this week, we're seeing our bus average availability is a little over 500. I want to maintain and be able to sustain a minimum of 510 buses before we start reinstating some service, because the last thing I want to do is reinstate the service, advertise it for our customers, and then not be able to deliver it and pull it back. So I'm using that as a rough guideline, but I want to see us be able to sustain 510, and then we can look at progressively reinstating some service, because I want to show that incremental progress that we're achieving. But ultimately, we know that we got to get through the winter months, and as we onboard new buses, as we onboard more mechanics, and as the weather improves in March, that all those things will combine, will help us with our bus availability.
Prochainement, Sébastien Pierrose, le droit.
Sébastien Pierrose, le droit. Hello, Mr. Charter. Now, you said that a vehicle has two axles, that it would take a day to repair two axles. There are 10 per vehicle, so 5 days to repair a vehicle. Why does it take so long? It's been now 2.5 years. We still have the same number of vehicles, 18 or 20 on the tracks. Why is it taking so long to repair them? Joël, could you answer that question, please? Well, as Troy said in English, well, there are also other maintenance needs as well that are ongoing. They have space to repair the axles, but they also need the same space to do the other repairs that are required. So we're going to maintain the number at 20, but we have confidence that we'll be able to go beyond 20 for a certain period of time before we reinstate service. Currently, we're undertaking the replacements, but with the cold, the other maintenance pressures, they haven't been able to go beyond 20. Thank you very much for that. Next question, my follow-up question. For the extension to Orleans, is it still scheduled for the first quarter of 2026?
Right now, and I'll ask Joel to finish to respond in French as well. Right now, it's too early to tell. We haven't set a specific date. I know that I've said that we've been close, and I thought we were comfortable in achieving service for the first quarter of the year. We still are very close to the launching the East Extension and starting trial running, but we're not there yet. But as always, we're going to be safe. We're going to be cautious, and we're going to make the right decisions, because when we launch, we want it to be successful. Joel?
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Well, as Troy has just said, I think we're very close, but we have to do this in a sustainable way. We have to have sufficient trains, but we're very close to trial running on the eastern section. When we're able to resolve the current situation with the trains, there'll just be some minor details to take care of at that point, and we'll be very quickly able to move to trial running and then opening of service to customers. Thank you.
Next is Joanne Lashes, Ottawa Citizen.
Hi, can you tell me a little bit more about the availability of the electric buses and how this is expected to relieve the situation and how long that will take?
Okay, so we've been talking about the onboarding of our electric buses for a little while now, and where we're at right now is we have, I think, just under 50 buses. I think it's 49 buses that we have available in here for service. These buses are integral to improving our reliability because they'll be brand new buses that we can replace some of the aging buses that are 17, 18 years old that are very difficult to maintain. Their breakdowns are more frequent, and when they do need to come into our maintenance shop, they're in for longer periods of time. So replacing out these aging vehicles is a key component in terms of improving our reliability. By the end of March, we should have 110 vehicles here in Ottawa available for service, and obviously that will replace 110 of the aging fleet. So as we onboard more vehicles, combined with other actions that we're doing, including, as I mentioned, including increasing the number, hiring more mechanics. There's been some positive progress there as well, but all the things that we're doing will help improve the service. And we know just simply that the winter time is very hard on vehicles. It's hard to maintain them in the cold and the slush and the snow. So with better weather, with more mechanics, and with new buses that will have a higher degree of reliability, we'll see improved performance. And our focus is on onboarding these buses as quickly as we can and continuing to improve. Ultimately, we're going to have 350 of these buses by the end of next year. And that will replace over half our fleet.
Thank you. No more questions.
Prochainement, c'est Anaïs Desjardins, Radio-Canada.
Anaïs Desjardins from Radio-Canada.
Anaïs, est-ce que vous êtes là?
Anaïs, are you there?
Anaïs might be having
Anaïs, are you having technical issues?
might be having some audio problems. So, est-ce que Carole O'Brien est ici pour Radio-Canada?
Carole O'Brien from Radio-Canada, are you here?
No. Okay, we'll move on to Shane Seguin at Real Fans.
Hi, Troy. Thanks for taking our questions today. You said that you expect about 20 trains to be available, and you've talked about the CBA replacement requirement at 100,000 kilometers. But there are also other mitigation programs happening at the same time, like the nut pinning and 60,000 kilometer thresholds, plus the regular maintenance cycle. So my question is, of the trains currently counted as available, which you said are 20, how many are approaching those other thresholds that could still force them out of service in the near term? And are you confident the 20 train figure is stable, or is there a risk of it dropping further?
Shane, to answer the question, right now we're confident that the number of trains can be sustained for a period of time, and but we really need to focus on that 100,000 restriction and look at making sure that we get the proper documentation and information that supports, that removal. It's important to note that RTG and Alstom, they have stated that they feel that the trains are safe for service without this restriction. And what the city is doing is they're conducting their due diligence. Given everything that's happened, we're conducting our due diligence and saying, we want to see the verification and validation information that supports that the mitigations that are currently in place, those containment measures that are currently in place, are effective and will ensure that our fleet is safe. So we're being very, very cautious in that approach, and I can't stress that enough. But we know that we can sustain the 20 vehicles. We think that we can slowly and incrementally increase the number of vehicles through the CBA replacements. But that 100,000 restriction is challenging. It's challenging on a maintainer, to your point, given all the other maintenance requirements on a vehicle. But we're confident that we can sustain it for now. But we really need to make sure we're progressing towards a solution, both a short-term and a long-term solution to this new spalling issue.
Great, thank you for that. And my follow-up on the fleet numbers, so you said 20 trains are available, 39 are out of service. So I'm just trying to reconcile that with the total stage 2 fleet, because we know there are 3 vehicles at Corkstown. We've seen trains up to 1167 in service. So can you clarify, is the 39 the total number of trains unavailable for any reason whatsoever today, or just the ones affected by the CBA issue?
when I talk about the number of trains, we've got 64 trains in our fleet right now. That includes, every single vehicle that we have. You're right, we do have 3 trains that are currently in the west and maintenance and storage facility at Moody, as well as there's a couple long-term stop trains that are in for longer-term maintenance that are unavailable for service. So, we've got 64 trains in total, of which currently 20 are available for service. And the ones that are out of service are for all reasons.
Okay, I appreciate the clarity. Thank you.
Et juste pour demander encore, Anaïs, est-ce que votre audio fonctionne
Nice.
maintenant?
Is your audio working now?
Non. OK. Nous allons au Philippe Villeneuve à Radio
Philippe
Outaouais.
Villeneuve from Radio Outaouais.
Philippe, avez-vous une question?
Philippe, do you have a question?
Si oui, vous êtes en mute encore.
If you do have a question, you're still on mute.
Okay, we will go for a second round. So we'll start from the beginning with Cameron Muller at CBC if you have a follow-up question.
Hi. Yes, I do have a follow-up question. I wanted to ask if the reason for what's causing the spalling is known yet.
No, as part of our ongoing investigation, the root cause analysis of that is outstanding, but that work is progressing as they continue to investigate, looking at the bearings that have exhibited the spalling. They're doing teardowns and literally pulling these bearings apart and trying to see what part is looking at the parts, what are failing. But the actual root cause, no, that's part of the ongoing investigation as to what occurred.
And do I get a second follow-up with that?
Yeah, that's fine, Cameron.
I was just wondering, the Eglinton Crosstown is finally opening this weekend in Toronto after 15 years and billions over budget. I was wondering if you had any advice for them, seeing as how they use many of the same companies that built our LRT.
We're in constant contact with colleagues throughout Ontario and in the area, even into Quebec. They've made the right decisions so far in terms of waiting. Don't put a date to a launch until you feel you're ready. That's my biggest advice that I would give to any property is don't put a date. Your launch date is when you're ready to go. And the last thing you want is to go through challenges and failures and put your customers through that. So be diligent, take your time, safety first, reliability second. And when you're ready, you'll know.
Thank you.
Jody Applewhite.
Hi, I have Anais with me. Her mic wasn't working. Is she able to ask her questions and then I can get to my follow-ups?
Absolutely. Go right ahead. Thank you so
Fantastic.
much.
Thank you.
Merci, Annie.
Merci. Ma question est pour
Thank you very
Troy
much. My
Charter.
question is for
Jody
Troy
a parlé
Charter.
tantôt, mais
Jody
hier, on a
asked this
appris que
question
les
earlier, but yesterday we
managers
learned
vont au bureau 5 jours par
that
semaine, des côtés du
managers will be
personnel
returning
vont
to
dans
the
les
office 5
bureaux
days a
par
week and
semaine.
others
Comment
4 days a week. How are you preparing for this new arrangement in Ottawa? I'll try and answer that in French, but I'll ask Joel to give more detail. Over the next few weeks, we're aware that the bus service will improve. We'll be receiving new buses, we'll have more staff, and we'll have better weather, and that should improve the performance, and it'll support a potential increase in customer usage. We're taking steps to increase Line 1 capacity, and that's the reason why we think that we're ready for an increase in the number of customers or passengers. Joël, anything to add? Well, I'd just like to piggyback on what you just said. There's a lot of overcrowding on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays because that's when the public servants are in the office. When public servants come back to work 4 days a week or 5 days a week, we should we should see the same amount of people using the system on Monday and Friday. So we'll be taking steps to deal with that. We'll also be making improvements in the number of buses and trains available as we move towards the spring and the summer. Follow-up question. You also mentioned that part of the delay in the repairs is that there's a shortage of mechanics. So you've said that part of your strategy is to take on more. How many extra mechanics do you need for repairs to be done more quickly? Well, this year, we're planning on hiring more mechanics. Could you repeat, please? It cut out. It cut out. I'm sorry. Well, this year, we're planning on hiring 20 extra mechanics. Thank you.
Jody, if you'd like to ask your question now.
Yeah, so I was just wondering because you spoke about some of the challenges that are making this timeline take longer to get those vehicles back online, why we're seeing 2 come back online since January 23rd, and it'll be the same we're looking at next week. But something I think passengers might want to hear a bit more about is timeline. I mentioned at this rate with 2 trains online in about 3 weeks, we'd be looking at a sort of April timeline to get back to the full return of the fleet. Is that sounding like something that's accurate, or do you have any more texture you can provide on that timeline?
Yeah, no, Jody, I can answer the question. Unfortunately, I can't give a specific timeline. You know, the timeline that we're working towards is as soon as possible, right? We know that our customers are experiencing challenges. We know that the trains are busy, that the stations are busy. While we're able to largely keep up with demand, it's not the most comfortable experience for our customers right now, especially in the winter. So our goal is as soon as possible, and that's why we're looking at the twofold. We're looking at the cartridge bearing assembly CBA replacements, as well as looking at that 100,000-kilometer restriction. But you know, at the end of the day, we're going to make the right decision, and we're going to make the decision with safety as being our priority. So I'd love to be able to provide a timeline that says within 2 weeks, within 3 weeks. I just can't do that right now. And that's one of the reasons why we're talking today is that I want to make sure that we continue to dialogue and dialogue with the media, because you're one of our key partners in getting the information out to our customers about where we're at. I don't have a timeline other than we are working on it 7 days a week to try to get to a point where we can get back to regular service as soon as possible. You know, I don't want this to extend into April. I don't want this to extend into March. But it's too early for me to be able to put a timeline to it, other than we're working night and day to make this happen as quickly as possible. But as I said before, and I can't repeat it enough, and I got our chief safety officer, she wants to chime in, but it's about making sure that we have the right information to support a safe return to service.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and my second question was around kind of this combination of challenges that OC Transpo is facing right now in terms of that reduction of the fleet on line 1, but also the 6% undelivered bus trips, some of that, as you mentioned, related to the weather. I just wonder what you can tell me about if there is a way out of this kind of transit quagmire right now, and how you action those priorities on stage 2 with these current issues that are being faced.
Sorry, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I followed the question. I thought we were mixing a little bit of rail and bus.
Yeah, I just wonder how you meet the reliability and get to those stage 2 priorities when there are this combination of issues that are being faced right now.
Well, at present, our rail construction team, they're moving full tilt on the construction activities and trying to advance towards substantial completion and trial running on the eastern extension. They're not impacted by this presently, and they're moving with all the documentation and verification information they need to do to get to a point of substantial completion. So that's moving forward with our rail construction team. Our bus maintenance team and our operations team, led by Joel, they're focused on the bus side of things, and that's where we come back to our bus maintenance action plan. So it's onboarding new buses, and those are the ZEB buses or the electric buses that we've been talking about. It's about onboarding more mechanics. It's about onboarding more operators, and so we're moving forwards on that. So we've got 2 streams. We've got a rail team that's focused on the rail issues and the rail construction, and we've got a bus team that's focused on the maintenance as well as the operational aspects.
Okay, thank you.
And Ted Raymond.
Hi, yeah. So you mentioned weather improving being something that will help improve bus service, but winter is going to be back next year. So are we just going to go through this again next winter, or what do you anticipate in terms of making sure that the system can handle this
Yeah.
kind of weather all the time?
Yeah, Ted, I appreciate the question because I do not want to leave anyone with the impression that we're hanging all our hopes on improved weather, right? You're right. This is Ottawa. This is Canada. We're going to get weather. We're going to get snowstorms. We're going to get freezing rain. It's just it's a fact of where we live. But a reality is when you're managing a fleet of vehicles, whether it be buses or trains, weather poses additional challenges, right? And it's hard on vehicles, just like you see you know, in terms of people's own personal vehicles, it's a little more challenging in the winter. But we will have over half our fleet. Close to half our fleet will be replaced by next winter. And we're also bringing in, I've been talking about the 350, zero emission buses, the ZEBs. But we will also start the onboarding of, we purchased as well 50 articulated diesel buses, and some of them will be coming in this year and then into next year. So it's really about that focus on renewing our fleet. And as I said, I talked about the mechanic recruitment. We'd like to hire 20 more mechanics this year. There's been an industry-wide shortage of mechanics. We're like a lot of other properties and places, they're facing challenges in recruiting mechanics and having to develop people in-house, and we focused on that. We increased our apprentice program a couple years ago. But with more mechanics to work on the vehicles, with newer vehicles, we'll be in a much better state for next winter. But with that said, as I said, managing a fleet of vehicles, there's always challenges when you hit those winter months. But I do not want to leave anyone with the impression that all our hopes and efforts to improve things are based on weather. It's just one more contributing factor that helps us give us confidence that once we get through this winter, we'll see service immediately improve. But to your point, we need to sustain it. And that's what we need to prove to our customers, that we can sustain it.
Okay, my second question will just be about your conversations with the federal government and your plans for return to office. And I'm wondering if you could just elaborate a little bit more on what you talked about, what you've heard, what you've said, and what you're planning to do over the next year to ensure that, our system is prepared for, again, additional people coming to the office and using it.
Yeah, so I mean, we have conversations with the federal government on a number of topics, and ridership's one of them, and return to office mandates, and has been one of those topics that come up, and the federal government's interested in how we can support that and what the city's activities in terms of their return to office mandates going on. But we have, as I said, we have conversations with them on years with regards to things like New Year's Eve and Christmas Eve, and letting people off early, those types of things. So there's lots of conversations that we have with them. We were aware that this was coming, and I think everyone in the city of Ottawa, whether you rely on transit or not, is very much interested in our reliability and what we're doing to improve. And so that's been the nature of the conversations. What are your plans? How are you going to improve? Do you have timelines? Similar questions that you're asking now.
Joanne, did you have follow-up questions you wanted to ask?
Yes, please. What would you say, or what can you do to win back riders who have not used public transit for a while, or those who've been so frustrated that they have decided not to go back to it?
It's a really good question. We have a really dedicated team of people here at our organization, whether it be operators, mechanics, our customer service agents who really take to heart where we're at right now with our service, and we're doing everything we can to improve the service as quickly as possible. I want to talk about the rail per certain perspective at a certain time here. It's unfortunate that the spalling issue has occurred, because we were at a point where we were seeing very, very high degree of reliability on line one. We were hitting months where we were at 99% of the trips being delivered, and we put a lot of those reliability challenges that faced the system early on were behind us, and we were seeing really, really good service. Launch of lines 2 and 4 last year, and that's been a solid addition to our service. So there's the bones of a really strong services there. I really do think that on our bus side of things, we're about to turn a corner in terms of our reliability and our performance. Just think about, over half your fleet will be replaced with brand new buses. These are buses that are 17, 18 years old that will be replaced. But in speaking to our customers, I know that seeing is believing. And our challenge that our entire team is faced with right now, and we're up for that challenge, is to demonstrate to our customers that we have the right plans, we are taking steps, you will see improvements, and we will be able to sustain it.
One more question. How do you think you can deliver that message effectively so that people are tempted to try it again?
Staying transparent, continuing to have this dialogue, continuing to do these media avails, talking at the transit commission and transit committee, and just being open. We need to continue to have this dialogue. As I mentioned earlier, I want to, I want to leverage the media. I want to help. I want you to help us get the message out. We want to keep people informed. We want to be transparent in where we're at in terms of, both the benefits and the improvements and interaction plans, but also where our challenges are. So that's our commitment to you. That's my commitment to the public, is that we are going to continue this dialogue, and we're going to continue to have these difficult conversations. I'm confident that we will be talking about how things are improving shortly.
And Shane Seguin.
I don't have anything further today, but I just want to say thank you for all the media availabilities and the updates and the memos. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Shane.
Very welcome. Je vais demander encore si Philippe Villeneuve a des questions.
Does Philippe Villeneuve have any questions? Just
Je sais pas si il est ici. Okay.
don't know if he's there.
Well,
Okay,
thank you,
perfect.
everyone. Sorry, this concludes our media availability today. Merci tout le monde.
Okay, merci à tous.
Was 18 at the time, then 19.